Michel Perley who did the music, is here. Unfortunately, the sound was a little low, but it was a beautiful score.
I am Linda Martinez, and I play the part of Leonora in Eliane's film.
Does anybody in the audience have any questions? Okay.
I have a question. I wanted to ask, I was interested because, oftentimes experimental film doesn't necessarily have actors, but I love the fact that both of you were directing actors in the film, and so I just wanted to ask both of you about the experience of working with actors and whether it's a normal part of your practice or whether it's kind of a one-off for this film.
I love this question because my work is like that. I take a narrative and I transform that in some kind of the instrumental. All my works is like it has this big relationship with a dream piece, and I like to have a characters, and because is a kind of has this representation between reality and dreaming, and work with Linda was great, and she's amazing. And this piece we did with George, and it was just fun.
And do you usually work with actors, or is this film an exception for you?
Excuse me.
Do you usually work with actors?
Well, I work with mannequins too a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of films that has mannequins. I do only also painting film, a lot of different things. But I do have another films that I work with actors too. Yeah.
And what about you, Mari?
I couldn't catch that question.
Because I was asking about working with actors, and so directing the film and then also working with other actors in the film. Is that a usual part of your filmmaking practice?
Oh yes, this time I worked with the dancers, and this was made for the film festival I've shown with last film, and originally the film was for the 3 minutes and 11 seconds, which is when earthquake happened. So I wanted to make something short and playful, so I worked with the dancers.
And then you fleshed it out to a longer piece.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it was made specifically for the film festival?
Yeah, and this festival is coming up September, so I'm going to show this film soon again.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you feel like I'm going to ask a question. In Japan, was there a general response like that from artists and filmmakers after the earthquake, that they wanted to do things that were more uplifting? Or?
Yeah, I think a lot of film about the earthquake is coming out, and like documentaries and how that affects our mind. So a lot of narrative too, and it just happened last year, so many new films influenced by the big earthquake is coming out like this year, I think. Yeah.
Were the characters in the film at all influenced by people that you know, or?
It's a lot. I think my film is always very personal, something about my experience. So it's a lot of the character is from my own experience and like a lot of my different persona, I think.
I would like to ask you, it seemed to me that you were had something to do about speaking about a possible problem of young people committing suicide. Is there a problem in Japan for?
Yeah, I think it's generally Japan has very high suicide rate, and we had another big earthquake like 17 years ago, and one of the biggest program was like at the beginning, like you have so much problems right after the disaster, but the time passes, like people started feeling really lonely, like the people who lost the family, like they kind of live alone for a long time, and people started killing themselves. And that same thing is happening in the earthquake last year, so I wanted to show something really people who are desperate but have some hope at the end. Yeah.
I think you did a very good job.
Thank you so much.
I was wondering, Eliane, could you talk a little bit about the idea of ritual in your film? Because I really liked how that kind of ran through like these processes of, some kind of an altar with putting the little dolls into that, and then the kind of idea of ritual and imprisonment and voyeurism and stuff. And I don't know if you could speak to that a wee bit.
There's a lot of things, but the film, the idea was like that. I was doing George's Studio 8, and it's impossible you be around George and you don't have like weird nightmares, especially sexual ones. It's always missing, But anyway, and this piece came from a dream that I had.
Wow.
And then I told George, I said like, I just had this weird nightmare. He said like, oh good, let's go make a movie. And it was funny because on the initial idea, and he completely took you over. I always say that. And of course we are doing together. And the initial idea was like going to be Linda with a young girl. And he said, oh no, she's not gonna like that. Let's go do it a young guy. You say, yeah, but then who's gonna be the other actors? He say, I do it. And you just have this fun. Like, if you watch George's diary, is what's the name? The butchery beefcake is the making of Leonora, and. But answer your question. I try to make something like darker and related with the idea of power shipping relationship, and of course I'm from Brazil, and voodoo is something that is very common there. Not that, but a little bit. And then I took this from my culture, of course. I guess I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah.
And have you made films with Linda before? Have you guys collaborated?
No, that was the first time, but we collaborated. After that, we've been working together. I did the installation, and not just Linda, but James as well. Like, and we've been working together since Leonora, and we did a video installation in homage to George because he passed, and what was my senior thesis graduation, and very sexual too.
But Linda, you have a relationship with George too, right?
Yes, I do. I first met him in 1986 because one of his students, Richard Ployer, he was looking for a place to live for the time he was studying at school for 1 year, so he chose my place. And so he was a very excellent student. He actually got a top honor of graduating with a good reference letter for future employers. But he talked nonstop about George Kuchar for 3 months, and then I saw some of his films, and whoa, I never saw anything like this before. That was the beginning. But 4 years later, he asked me to do a cameo, and it's been non-stop for over 20 years until he passed. And I worked with Mike Kuchar also, and he took over George's class. And actually, I'm having dinner with Mike tomorrow, and I suspect we're going to talk about what's happening next semester. I'm looking forward to that. I want to say that some years ago, over 10 years ago, George had wanted to do a film just of the two of us, and that never came to pass because I was more interested in going to Manhattan than going to El Reno, Oklahoma, and I realized I really missed a great opportunity there, but Eliane coming into my life has put George and I together, and it means a great deal to me because now George is no longer here, and anyone who knew George will carry with them a wonderful fire in the heart to continue on to look at movies, to make movies, to act in movies, and the story goes on. Oh, one thing, Eliane and I met before this film because we were in George's class. Eliane was in the class. I've always been not in the formal class, but a person from the outside who came in, and I volunteered my time. Well, George is a wonderful teacher. He discovered me, I tell him, and he helped make me what I am, because I wouldn't have discovered that I like to, something happens, somebody comes to me, they want me to be a character, you know. I just try to give them what they want, and so far I have not failed. You never know.
I don't know. If you know George's works, Linda is in all his movies, like many of them. Yeah. And
Are there any other questions?
I had one last question for Mari. I really liked your use of food in the film, so like the little marzipan characters and the people busting out of the cake and the kind of bubbling stuff at the beginning. Can you talk about just a little bit about that and how you got interested in using food in your film?
I really love eating. And my last film is about the food too. That's like the girl who fall in love with this magical orange. And it's kind of extension to the previous film and develop more, I think makes kind of, I don't know, it's just such a pleasure to looking at food and playing with food, and to me that takes me to some sort of like fantasy world. So that becomes like this kind of film, I think.
I have one more question. I think you did the sound, right, for Eliane? Is it one of you? And so I was just wondering what, when you did work on the sound, what your ideas were for it. It was a really interesting soundtrack. What were your thoughts and your...
Well, I've taken a collaboration film course with Eliane, with Lynn Hirschman, I believe, and so we were doing just a group project. A lot of the students in the class were helping other students with their projects and whatnot, and I told Eliane that that I do more dark score, something that's usually has more of a mysterious sort of theme. So she came over to my studio, and we started working on a different score for this piece, but I ended up actually using a different piece that I'd written for the film. So I think our work talked to each other in such a way. So it was a good fit.
he did that in half a day. It's amazing. I cannot believe it. He's just going in piano. It's like, what do you think about it? And I was trying to explain, my English is terrible. And then in 5 seconds, he just like came with this beautiful piece. And I was just like looking like, wow. Yeah, it was amazing.
It was a good day.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
Filmmakers.
Thank you.